Hey, my name is YANEZA BESUAL, and today we're going to discuss about the global divides, the North and the South, focus on Latin America. But before that, let us have first know the learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, the student should be able to identify concept of a gap between the global North and the global South in terms of development and wealth, and identify countries which are commonly associated with the global North and the global South. Let us go to the concept and definition of global South and global North. The global North, 1/4 of the world population, refers to developed societies of Europe and North America, which are characterized by established democracy, wealth, technological advancement, political stability, aging population, zero population growth, and dominance of the world trade and politics. According to Audit 2010, the Global South, the developing countries, 3/4 of the world population, represents mainly agrarian economies in Africa, India, China, Latin America, and others that are not as economically sound and politically stable as their global North counterparts and tend to be characterized by war, conflict, poverty, and tyranny. In the 1980s, the brand line was developed in a way of showing how the world was geographically split into relatively richer and poorer nations. Richer countries are almost all located in the northern hemisphere. Poorer countries are mostly located in tropical regions and in the southern hemisphere. The terms of the North and the South, when used in global context, are alternative designations for developed and developing countries. The North-South divide is broadly considered a socio-economic and political divide. There are two reasons why our world is so unequal today. The first is the colonialism. Second is the trade. So what does colonialism mean? European countries developed or colonized many parts of the countries. This means they took our countries, making them into colonies. This was often done by force. For example, Spain and Portugal colonized Central and South America. Britain and France colonized many parts of Africa. Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Portugal also colonized parts of Africa. Britain and France also colonized many parts of Asia. Colonialism had many negative and positive effects. We should be very aware of the effects colonialism had, because like many countries, Ireland was a colony of Britain. What does it mean about trade? European countries used their colonies to provide them with cheap raw materials. This include unprocessed minerals such as crude oil, uranium, and diamonds. They also include what are called cash crops. Cash crops are crops that are grown specifically for export such as coffee, tobacco, and cotton. Countries in the north buy these natural resources cheaply and then process them into finished products. These products are then sold at a high profit, often to the poor countries of the south. There are many causes of natural resources, different levels of health and education, the nature of countries' economy and its industrial sectors, international trading policies, and access to markets.
The gap between the North and South, despite very significant development gains globally which have raised many millions of people out of absolute poverty. There is a substantial evidence that inequality between the world's richest and poorest countries is widening. In 1820, Western Europe's per capita income was 3 times bigger than Africa's, but by the 2000, it was 13 times as big. In addition, in 2030, Oxfam reported that the richest 85 people in the world own the same amount of wealth as the poorest half of the world's population. Today, the world is much more complex than the brand line depicts, as many poorer countries have experienced significant economic social development. However, inequality within the countries has also been growing, and some commentators now talk to a global North and global South, referring respectively to richer or poorer communities which are found both within and between countries. For example, whilst India is still home to the largest concentration of poor people in a single nation, it also has very sizable middle class and a very rich elite. There are many causes for these inequalities, including the availability of natural resources, different levels of health and education, the nature of a country's economy and its industrial sectors, international trading policies, and access to markets. How countries are governed and international relationships between countries conflict with in-between countries, and country vulnerability to natural hazards and climate change.
Here we're explaining the divide. the development disparity between the North and South has sometimes been explained in historical terms. Dependency theory look back on the patterns of colonial relationship with persistence between the North and South and emphasize on how colonized territories tended to be improvised by those relations. Theories of this school maintain that the economy's ex-colonial states remain oriented towards serving external rather than internal demand, and that development regimes undertaken in this context have intended to reproduce and underdeveloped countries to pronounce class hierarchies found in industrial countries while maintaining higher levels of poverty. Dependency theory is close intertwined with Latin America structuralism, the only school of development economists emerging from the global south to be affiliated with a national research institute and to receive support from national bank and finance industries.
So good day, my name is SITTIE BENITO, your reporter for today. So my report is all about the challenges in global north and global south. The accuracy of the north-south divide has been challenged on a number of grounds. Firstly, differences in political, economic, and demographic makeup of countries that tends to complicate the idea of monolithic south. Because when it comes to economy, the global south or third world countries are already low compared to those in the global north or first world countries. And to politics, those in third world countries are often mess up their political systems. So there were rallies, massacre of president, vote buying, and etc. In terms of technology, the third world countries are not lagging behind because they are controlled by first world countries. And ever since Russia, communism, which is a global neutral states or second world countries, is an enemy and rival of America, democratic, which is in the first world countries, because they are harassing those in third world countries or developing countries that are rich in natural resources, vast land, hardworking, talented, skillful people, and etc. Globalization has also challenged the notion of two distinct economic spheres following the liberalization of post-Mao China initiated in 1978. Growing regional cooperation between the national economies of Asia has led to the growing decentralization of the North as the main economic power. Economic status of the South has been fractured. As of 2015, all but roughly the bottom 16 nations of the global South were thought to be gaining on the North in terms of income, diversification, and participation in the world market. Globalization has largely displayed in North-South divide as the theoretical underpinning of the development efforts of international institutions such as the IMF, World Bank, WTO, and various United Nations affiliated agencies. Though these groups differ in their perceptions of the relationship between globalization and inequality, yet some remain critical of the accuracy of globalization as a model of the world economy, emphasizing the enduring centrality of nation states in the world politics and the prominence of regional trade populations.
Why highlight Latin America to describe the global South? In 2016, the Morgan Stanley economists articulated that Latin America plays a role in accelerating the global economy. Brazil and Argentina managed to stand up from economic turmoil. Economists highlighted the politics and policy choices remain significant in determining economic growth in the area. In recent 3 years, a lot has been done to highlight the important contribution that actors from the global South made and have always made to international relations. Indeed, international relations as a discipline has come a long way in incorporating aspects, actors, and concepts that represent the world more widely. Yet, as the dynamics of the international system continue to change with the emergence of new economic powers such as India, China, Brazil, Turkey, as well as other rising economies, international relationships will need to do more to pay attention to the perspectives of those in the South. Global South perspectives not only challenge the dominant theoretical perspectives that have served to create and perpetuate unjust relations between the global North and South. They also open up the possibility of different, fairer relations that represent the interest of all concerned and challenge international institutions to have more representative power structures and decision-making processes.
Before we end our discussion, let us have our summary. The brand line was created in 1980s to show how the world was geographically divided into relatively richer and poorer nations. The United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Western European countries, and developed parts of Asia are examples of global northern countries. Countries in the global south, such as those in Africa and portions of Asia, are less economically developed. That's the end of our discussion. I hope that you learned in our topic, and I will leave this to you, the quote from Matthew Arnold. Our inequality materializes our upper class, vulgarizes our middle class, and brutalizes our lower class. That's all. Thank you and have a nice day.